In today's class, I'm going to explain object-oriented programming in C++. So, in the previous classes, I tried to brief all of you object-oriented programming in Python, Java, and C++. C++ I have not briefed. I have briefed clearly about object-oriented programming in Python, Java. So in C++, we will try to understand OOPS concepts. What is the OOP? OOP means object-oriented programming. Okay, so now generally what happens, C is a procedural programming language. That is very important. You need to keep in your mind. Procedural programming means the programming language which is totally based on functions. Okay, so in procedural programming, writing procedures means functions. So functions already I have briefed that. What is function? Generally, simply in simple terminology in the previous classes, I told you that function means a block of code will be executed. Means block means some lines of statements, otherwise instructions, 5 lines, 10 lines, even the 2 lines is called a block of code. So that block of code will be executed whenever we call that block with a name. So if 100 lines of code I have written, that is a block of code. Now if I have kept a name for that block 100 lines of code, so if I call that name, so that 100 line of code will be executed. That is called a function. Okay, so procedural programming like C, it is entirely depend upon functions. So that functions perform means procedures or functions, they are performed over the data. These procedures are otherwise functions, they perform operations. Any type of operation means any operation which is related with processing. Otherwise it is a mathematical oriented operation, any logical oriented operation, okay, to get the result. So while object oriented programming means, as I told you, that OOP stands for object oriented programming. So here object oriented programming is related with objects and classes, some methods, classes, objects, variables, instance variables, local variables, class variables. So these are the terms which are related with object oriented programming. So in object oriented programming, we need to create the objects. Okay, that objects contain both the data and functions. So here functions, whenever we call them under classes and objects as methods, okay, not functions. So function and method, there is no any different. Both are, if a function is written inside of a class, now it is called a method, because that function is part of a class. Understood that? So if there is no any class and function is written separately, now it is function. Some block of code will be executed. So that function means method can be called as in two ways. One is either the class method, otherwise object method. Okay. So we are going to understand OOPS concepts in C++. As I told you that those OOPS concept programming, OOPS except C will not support OOP object oriented programming. C++ supports Java, Python, other languages like your so many languages are there. Go language is there, Swift is there, Kotlin is there. So many like languages, they will support the object oriented program, because C was developed in 1974 around. So that moment this concept of OOPS, I think it was not emerged. After that C++, that is the next version of C. So C++ supports object oriented programming. So OOP is faster and easier to execute. Why? What are the advantages of OOPS? OOP programming, object oriented programming language. OOP is faster and easy to execute. I told you that execution is what? Compilation and execution. The execution term is very important to understand, you all of you. Okay, understand? Execution means, try to understand, when our code written in statements, English like statements, that is called source code, that is to be converted into machine understandable language, that is called machine language, otherwise 0 comma 1 binary language, binary bits, okay, object code. So up to that is called compilation. Compilation has two process. One is checking for errors, means bugs, if any bug is not there, and that code will be, source code will be converted into your object code, means 0 comma 1 machine language. That is called compilation. Up to this execution means, now this 0 comma 1 machine language will be sent to microprocessor, so that microprocessor will understand that machine language 0 comma 1, and it returns the result in the form of human understandable language, because the humans can understand only the keyboard language, that is what your English like alphabets, 0 comma 0 to 9 digits, number digits, and some special characters. Okay, so that is called man machine interaction. Okay, you write some code as per the syntax, rules and regulations of any programming language. Every programming language has somewhat rules how to write the code, that is called syntax, and as per the syntax you will study that material, otherwise notes, and you will try to understand language, and then you install that language IDE, okay, integrated development environment platform, and you will write the code. Okay, that code will be as per that syntax of that programming language, and then that code to be converted into machine language. Okay, that is called object code. So leave it that these are the very basic ideas about how programming will be written in any programming language. So OOP provides a clear structure for the programs. Okay, programs, I told you that sequence of instructions is called a program. So many combination of programs is called a software. So OOP supports clear structure, okay, to write the programs. Okay, OOP helps. Clear structure means very easy structure. Okay, and there is no any difficulty in writing of the code. Very easy structure to programs. Program means sequence of instructions is a program. 10 lines, 5 lines may be a program. OOP helps to keep the C++ code dry. Don't repeat yourself. Means what? Object oriented programs help us. Okay, dry means don't repeat your code, never to be repeated. This is very important as a programmer, na? So it doesn't mean to write the code, suppose 100 lines of code is there and you want to write 100 lines of code and repeatedly. No, it is not a programmer skill.